Hi, this is Palmonia. Welcome to this episode of Shift. Topic for today, mistakes. What are mistakes and do you have any? I'm your host, Palmonia Gordon. I'm an author of the book Order It, A Guide to Manifesting Your Dreams. That book came about after over 23 years in corporate Canada, worked at the post office, and I picked up my bag to go to work one morning, and the thought of going postal really made sense. At the time, I was a single mother with 5 children, and I couldn't afford to go postal with kids. Plus, postpartum, I had just had my 5th child and had recently returned to work. So, what are mistakes? I'm also known as the acronym lady, which means I actually take a word and I break it down into an acronym because if it's simplified, it makes sense to me, which means I can apply it better. So I did an acronym for shift, but for mistake. But before I give that to you, I just want to remind you what it is. If this is your first time to shift, welcome. SHIFT is actually an acronym which stands for simply helping individuals to find their true passion, their true purpose. And we do it through our thoughts, through our stories, through our talents, by sharing our truth, just by being together and recognizing that you are not alone. The concept behind shift is to remember the clock. The clock has the hour hand, the minute hand, and the second hand. But in order to get to 1 minute, the second hand has to move 60 times. So if you all see me when you're out, just do the shift. So you have to move 60 tiny moves in order to get to 1 minute. And then in turn, the minute hand has to do 60 small moves before you can get to an hour. But in life, we're so focused on the hour and the minute, nobody pays attention to the second, not recognizing that if you don't shift for the second, you will never get to a minute. So that's the concept behind shift. So thank you for joining us. And the acronym for mistake, I believe, is a message. M is for message. I is for intending. So it's a message intending to see you through and kinetically establish self-alignment. What? Yes. How many of us, after we have made what we perceived at the time to be a mistake, later on go, oh my God, I am so glad that happened because that happened, I found out this or this happened, or I got to a place where I realized something about myself. So then if that incident brought us to a better place, how was that a mistake? See how upside down the world is? And that's a part of the shift, is just to kind of shed some light on some of the crutches that we hold to, the handicaps that are not serving us well, so we can let go of it, so we can move on and run quickly. Kinetic actually means energy the body possesses by being in motion. So when you get a message intending to see you through and kinetically, so that means by you going through that process, it keeps you moving so you can establish better self-adjustment. One of my quote unquote biggest mistake, or what I thought was my biggest mistake, was getting pregnant with my son while I was in church. New to church, and I was following the rule by the book, not realizing that not everybody knows the rules or choose to follow it by the book. But that's a message for another time. And I got pregnant, and it was a very hard place to be. But the thing with being pregnant, now there is a new focus. Because as much as I wanted to throw the comforter over my head and curl up and not face the world, now I had life inside of me that I had to preserve. So I have found, looking back over my life, that especially for my first three kids, as a matter of fact, I could say maybe for every single one of my kids, I've always been pregnant at a place and at a time where if I wasn't pregnant, quitting would have been an option. But because I was pregnant, because I knew there was something driving me forward, the kinetic motion kept me going to establish self-adjustment. Because look at me today. I am aligning. I am still in a process of aligning. I will always be aligning for the rest of my life. So anybody who's looking to say, oh my God, she has arrived, I will always be aligning. Right? So based on that, isn't a mistake a good thing? I would think so. So I think today I want us to look back as far back as you can go. Some of them are going to be deep places. Some of them are going to be dark places. Some of them are going to be places that you're going to go, Palmonia, not today. But you don't have to do it today. But at sometimes you need to, because the fact that you are not able to look at it means it still has control of you. When you're able to look at it and go, that's not me. That got me to here, and I am grateful. I am so much better because of that. Then you can move on. Right? So we have to start looking at the picture that society and culture teaches us about our experiences, about our lives, about our situations and circumstances, and the name we apply to it. Because we are taking names and we're taking ownership of things that are really not yours. They're not mine. They're not my kids. They're not even supposed to be a part of our family, right? So what I'm saying to us on shift, as we are shifting, is that shift wants you to make the shift here to first recognize who you are. Because when you recognize who you are, when somebody tries to put something on you, you go, that's not me. There are things now that people will say or people will do, and I literally will do that. There's no need for me to get upset. Because now I understand that they don't know. I understand that there's ignorance involved. I understand that I was taught incorrectly, which means they were probably taught incorrectly too. And that's a mistake, because that mistake can be so detrimental for so many of us because we don't know. Right? Have you ever been to an event, a movie or church or training seminar? And I seem to get this quite often, maybe because I'm height deprived to some extent. And you find yourself sitting behind someone that, they're sitting like right here. What do you have to do? Yeah, you got to shift. Either right or either left. You got to move the chair. I may even say to the person, say, listen, honey, we're going to share a seat a little bit so I can squeeze over. And that's what I'm encouraging you today to do today, because that's the reality of our life. And that really is the truth that we get up and we live every day. There is something that's right in front of us. It's there. And the funny thing is, the person that's in front of us has no idea that, oh my God, I'm sitting in front of somebody behind me that's shorter and can't see. So can I adjust? Right? So that's the truth we want to keep shifting around everything that's in our way. And I want us to, tough one, look at your quote unquote mistakes and see the treasure that they brought to you. See how it taught you something about yourself. See how you grew. See how you learned. See how you learned to develop how to fight. Some people are only alive today because of the mistake that meant they had to fight. Whether it was physically, mentally, but they had to fight. Because if you hadn't been able to fight, you wouldn't still be here. So I am happy for your mistake if you're not happy yet. Because I know that that was a message intending to see you through and kinetically establish self-alignment. So I'm excited that you are shifting into that alignment. I'm your host, Palmonia. Thank you for stopping by today. Remember the second hand, 60 tiny moves before you make to one big move. And don't worry if anyone notices your tiny move. It's not about them. It's all about you. I love you. I'm your girl. See you next week.